And good evening, everyone. Welcome to a special edition of our Fireside Chat. And why is it special? Because we have the instructional specialist, Dr. Danielle Dietz, joining us tonight. Say wave hi.
Hey everybody, great to be here.
And as always, we're joined by our transition specialist, Ashley Cooper. You know her for our many seasons now of Fireside Chat. We are so happy for everyone that is joining us tonight. And we want to remind you, since it is a Fireside Chat, you can drop questions at any time in the comments and we will answer them live. Even if we're going over something, we'll stop and we'll answer right here and now. Your questions can pertain either to ECU or STEP. We'll answer them right here and now. Tonight's Fireside Chat will primarily focus on instructional specialist Dr. Dietz's role at the STEP program. She's going to really dive into it, and this will be very informative for prospective students and families to really get an inside look at the STEP program services once you are admitted. Ashley, I'll let you first take it away to have some opening remarks, and then you can go ahead with that first question for Dr. Dietz.
All right. So, welcome everyone to our special edition. I'm so excited to have Dr. Dietz on. I do have the first question, and it kind of goes into her role. So, what is your primary role as the instructional specialist, Dr. Dietz?
All right, well, great. Well, it's so good to be joining you guys here for a fireside chat. I'm really looking forward to our conversation this evening. Just a little bit about me. My background is in K 12. I was a high school social studies teacher, special ed teacher, and then a program specialist before coming to ECU a few years ago. So everything I do, in this role is really rooted in curriculum as well as direct support of students. So the primary role that I serve is the instructional specialist, and that includes teaching the EDUC, which is the course acronym for the STEP classes. So we teach those their freshman, sophomore, and then at some point in the upper class, it's a parallel curriculum that students are enrolled in and earn credit for while they're taking classes towards both general education and their major. So I'm an instructor. I'm also a co-advisor. So students at ECU have a major advisor, and that is someone that is either in their major, a professional advisor, or they often go into a faculty advisor. Even if you're an undecided or deciding student, they have a major exploration advisor in the MAP advising program that's assigned to them. So I serve as their co-advisor. And then I also organize the tutoring. I supervise our tutors to make sure that not only are they equipped with the skills and resources they need to serve students, but also that we're providing our students with the necessary tutoring resources that they need, both through our program and throughout campus. And then I also am responsible for planning some of the community building events that we do. And that's a really fun part of my job. It's not the main focus, but it is something that we really do emphasize on. So I think we'll get to talk a little bit about each one of those this evening.
That's great. Thanks, Dr. Dietz, for sharing a little bit about your primary role. Let's go into our next question is, when do you initially have contact with the student?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, as students apply and go through the interview and boot camp, Miss Cooper, the transition specialist, Ashley, she is the primary contact. She leads them through the transition curriculum, but there is a part in the spring, so it would be really right before they're about ready to graduate from high school, that you meet with the instructional specialist to actually start to select your classes for the fall. We do enroll students in some common core classes, but there is some flexibility there to start taking classes towards your major. So you actually have a virtual meeting in the spring before you come for orientation. So actually, with some of the feedback we got from our students was that they were very well prepared for orientation because they already had a pre-advising with me before coming to advising in the summer. Once you get here for boot camp, which is a week before classes start, then it switches over so that the instructional specialist takes the primary role. And we kind of fade off the supports from Miss Cooper. She'll always be there to support you, but you're there now more focused on the day-to-day instruction, which is where I step in and kind of take the lead on the daily support of student needs.
Nice. Thank you so much for sharing that. And you mentioned a little bit about you jumping into that transition curriculum, and you mentioned those common core classes. Could you talk about what that looks like for a student, those common classes?
Sure.
That's a
So
question we get a lot.
yeah, definitely. And it's one that I think came up a lot in advising. So, students in the STEP program, their first semester, so that's just the fall semester, classes run, mid to late August to early December typically. They're registered for a total of 12 credit hours. 3 of those credit hours is the EDUC 2003 class, which is again taught by the instructional specialist, and that's that curriculum about learning strategies, study skills, really digging into how we can support you on a course by course basis. Then there's 2 other common classes that students currently take, which is English 1100 as well as Psych 1000. Then their fourth class, which would round out the 12 credit hour course load, is one of their choosing. So if they are a student that is interested in nursing, they could take Chem 1120. If they're a student that has no idea what they want to do, but they really were involved in plays in high school, they can take Theater 1000 because it counts as a fine art and it might be something they're interested in. So we serve students from the whole spectrum across all majors on campus, and again, supporting them with students that are very focused on what they want to do, as well as doing major exploration with students that maybe aren't quite sure, but know that they want to be in a support program in college to help them succeed.
That's
I de-
great. So let's. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ashley.
Go ahead, Sam. Go ahead.
Okay, I was going to move into the next question, but before I do that, I want to remind anyone that's just joining in, if you do have any questions for Dr. Dietz regarding STEP's academic services, mentoring, tutoring, what that all looks like, or even some of the courses that are taken, this is a great time to ask your questions. So drop them in the comments. We'll answer them live right here and now. If you're maybe rewatching this later and you still have questions, you can still drop your questions in the comments and we can follow up in a private message with you. So, Dr. Dietz, moving back to our questions, one question we do get is what is your most memorable experience while working with students?
Well, I'll talk about a specific one, and then oh, so do we offer? So a question just came in about paleontology major. We actually do, unfortunately, we do not have a paleontology major. I think the closest thing we have would be geology or geography. We have both of those as a major, but no paleontology. We have anthropology.
Machi.
Yeah. Okay, so your question was about memorable with a student.
Yeah, memorable
So
experience while working with the
okay.
students.
So one of the things that I love most about my job is whenever students come back to share their success. So whether it be they landed an internship or they just finally got a 9 out of 10 on a quiz, the fact that they come in and um, share those successes, like they passed anatomy or I placed out of math 1065, all those things that we see students work really hard with, and share their successes with us. But I think one is actually a student that graduated in the spring. I think he maybe at one point was every major under the sun, until he finally decided to be a political science major. And watching him really grow and develop into that major, I think was one of my most memorable experiences.
That's great. Ashley, I'll let you ask that next question, but I know we put that banner up in the meantime to remind people that Dr. Dietz is here to answer your questions. You can drop those questions in the comments, just like we received from Henry. That was so great question. Thank you, Henry, for that. Ashley, I'll let you take it away with our next question.
All right. So, our next question is, how do you tie in community and service with the STEP program?
Okay. So service is actually one of it's the motto of ECU. So what we try to do every year is not only do we partner with other um, offices on campus, like the Center for Civic Leadership and Engagement, but we do some things in the community where we've partnered with Beast Philanthropy in the past as well. So we really want students to engage with the local community, both here in Greenville, but in Eastern North Carolina. So we do some things like that. We encourage students to do study abroad, alternative service, alternative break through service learning. But we also do some
We have a
time.
new we have a new question that
Okay.
actually just came in. I'm gonna interrupt you. I'm sorry. It's there on the screen right there from Martha. Is it hard to find the time for the study hall requirement with class requirements? That's a great question, Martha.
Yeah. Okay. So just to finish, so I got Martha's question. Um, we do also have community events that we do in the Cove about once a month. So the study hall requirement, there is a requirement for first year students to do 15 study hall hours a week. Students, so we're going to do a little bit of math here. Students are only in class for 12 hours a week. We as a program are open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So that's 45 hours where students have access to the Cove. They're in class for 12 of those, but then they only have to do 15 study hall hours in addition to that. So that's only 27 hours where they're either in class or in study hall. If you compare that, and actually you might have to help me out here because it's been a minute since I've been in high school, but what does the typical high school schedule look like? And how much time are they spending in a high school classroom compared to the 12 hours, 15, 27 total where they're in the Cove?
All right. So I definitely ask students this question a lot because they always have question about how is college going to look for me? And students are in class almost 8 hours a day. But in comparison to college, students are not spending that time in class doing actual work. They spend the majority of their time outside of class doing work. And so that's the biggest adjustment I see for a high school student is getting used to doing that work outside of class. So with that change, we're seeing that the study hall hours are beneficial for a student because it mimics a typical high school schedule of whatever 7 to 3 or 8 to 4, whatever their typical high school schedule looks like. So it mimics it very well, embedding those study hall hours in the day to day.
So to answer the question, is it hard to find the time? No, absolutely not. But what we find is students that aren't successful in meeting their time is because they're having a hard time managing their time. So that's something that we work specifically with them, with their mentors, have one-on-one conversations. We develop a daily, weekly schedule for them to be able to plan out their time. So there are some restrictions, like students aren't able to join um, a sorority or fraternity their first semester because it's a huge time commitment, as well as a school, like a sport. You can do like intramurals and that kind of stuff, but there's some restrictions because not only is it a huge time commitment, which would make it very difficult to get those 15 hours, but also it would some of those offer academic support services like for athletes, so we would be mimicking services that they're already getting in those situations. So we find that the students that are the most successful getting their hours are ones that are here, they're bought into the program, and they're really engaged in their academic success as well. And I think another question just came through.
We do have another
Okay.
question. Ashley, if you want to pop that up on the screen, this is from Monica. Monica, yes, questions are okay to ask. We love questions. This is what Fireside Chats are for. I'll read it out for anyone. So closed captions for people. Do y'all attend college fairs? This sounds like kind of a question for both of y'all. Do y'all attend college fairs? Second, and do y'all have in-person seminars to help parents and students whom are eligible for STEP? Students with 504 plans, are they eligible for this program? Two, if they have a low SAT score, and then they also another question. Let's first kind of break this one down, and then I'll finish the rest of this question for Monica. We'll make sure your entire question is answered. Y'all go ahead.
So I think Ashley's probably best equipped to answer this because the attendance at college fairs is her realm of recruiting. But I will say that the program is for students with documented learning disabilities. So the 504 IEP learning plan would be acceptable forms, or could be acceptable forms of documentation. And the SAT ACT score is just one part of what we look at. It's not there's not a minimum or maximum score of what we consider for the SAT or ACT scores. It's just one very small piece of an overwhelmingly comprehensive application. But before you get to that, you got to see Ashley. So Ashley, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah. So I absolutely attend college fairs. I go to a variety of fairs throughout the year. We try to post them on our social media so that everyone knows where I'm traveling to all over. Or I think we use the kind of boarding the ship and traveling all around, sailing the seas. There it is, sailing the seas
Yes.
all the way around, trying to find different locations to promote the STEP program. We also do attend different events where we try to share as much information. So one of the biggest things about STEP is that we love to research and love to share information with the public. So we have a transition curriculum that's online for people, but I also do. We're actually holding a kind of like a informational session with the Hill Learning Center later this month. I'm going to be presenting, so it's kind of a function where parents are able to ask me questions about the transition into college. So it's not necessarily a presentation over a step, but more so a presentation about students with learning differences transitioning into college. So we do host those as well when we attend either conferences or do events with other people. And then also, I think that I'm looking at the rest of the question. Dr. Dietz kind of already addressed the SAT and ACT scores. So I just will mention that the STEP program is an alternative admission. So we look at what students submit a little bit differently than admissions does. So we don't have a minimum score or a maximum score in terms of the SAT or ACT. But the student must have a documented specific learning disability to be eligible for our program. And they also have to meet minimum course requirements of ECU, meaning that they are taking the required high school classes and on that college preparatory track.
Mhm.
And that last part of the question that I know is not showing up on the screen from
Oh,
Monica is with
yeah.
the College Career Promise program. If students get a jump start with college classes, are they still able for the step?
So I think we're interpreting this as if you come in with college credit, are you still eligible to be considered for the STEP program? Ashley, do you want to answer that question?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's really dependent. Each I will say we look at each student individually in a case by case manner in terms of accepting students in the STEP program. So it doesn't necessarily distinguish whether they would get accepted or not if they do have college credit or not. But typically, a student coming into the STEP program probably wouldn't have college credit, but they may have some classes where they were able to get a score on the. Help me out, Dr. Dees. I'm losing
AP
it.
exam, like a 3 or
There we
better.
go.
Yeah.
Thank you. The AP exam where they may have gotten college credit for an English course or a psychology course. But the biggest thing is we want to make sure that students are coming under that cohort model in terms of taking those common classes together. So we are looking at that progression of it for a student. So we want to try to keep our students in the same kind of cohort so we're able to monitor that transition from high school to college, if that makes sense. But students are welcome to apply if they do have credit or if they don't have college credit.
That's great. Thank you both. Monica, some excellent questions there. Definitely ones we want to make sure we highlight in the future because you have some really good points there to ask. Same thing with Martha and Henry. Thank you for that. Again, if anyone else has any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. We're here to help you. We're on for about 10 to 15 minutes more. We'll go back to our originally scheduled questions. But again, if you have a question, drop it in the comments and we'll answer that right here and now. Believe we were on, let's see, we actually kind of answered one of these here just now. So what happens if a student does not meet their study hall or mentor hours, Dr.
Okay.
Dietz?
So actually, part of the requirements for the EDUC 2003 class is that students do participate in their study hall hours. So it's actually directly tied to a part of their grade in EDUC 2003. So while they experience, some, um, I would say, feedback there. They also will be hearing from the instructional specialist as well as their mentor. Typically, as I was kind of getting at, is if a student is not meeting their study hall hours, either something's going on, maybe they need an additional, to be connected to additional resource on campus, like counseling or student health or LGBTQ, office or something like that. But the other thing is that sometimes we just see students are just not managing their time appropriately. They're trying to do too much, and as a result, we kind of see the two go hand in hand. If they're not getting their study hall hours in, they're not studying for their classes. So then we see an impact across their other classes as well. And we actually get feedback from students every week with a course progress record or a CPR, and that's how we're able to kind of get a pulse for how students are doing in all their classes. So if students aren't doing well, they're typically not studying outside the cove. They're just not studying. So we have some really, structured conversations about how to get back on track, setting goals, and managing how students can meet, get things done like laundry and make a phone call home and manage prescriptions and do all that kind of stuff while still doing their responsibilities as a student first.
All right. I think we might have time for one more question. What do you guys
Okay,
think before we
sure.
go kind of wrap up? So what are CPRs and how
Okay,
do
so
the
I mentioned
CPRs
that.
help students?
Yeah, so a CPR is the course progress record, and this is another big difference between high school and college. In high school, especially if you're in a public school in North Carolina, I know typically we send home progress reports every 3 weeks. Parents could log on to Power School and could check students' grades at any time. That all goes away in college. So the only grades that are due are at the end of the semester. So you have some students that, some professors that grade very frequently give really great feedback, and you have some that maybe they don't have as scheduled of grading and feedback. So you might have really long gaps between when you turn an assignment in and when you get the feedback back from them. So what we do is we have students at the beginning of the semester create what we call a CPR. It's basically like a running document, a progress report where it lists all they go on by looking at the syllabus or our course, our learning management system, Canvas, and look at all of the requirements that are graded that semester. So they front load by listing all those. Then every week they go in and check to see what grades and they add the grades in. So we can see, oh, week one quiz, you got a 10 out of 10. Week two, 6 out of 10. Week three, 4 out of 10. And then we can see that there's this um, progression of students. They started out really strong, but then either the subject matter is getting harder or they're not using their resources. So we have some conversations about seeking out tutoring, seeking out office hours, that sort of thing. So we're able to have those coaching conversations with students by keeping a track of their grades that way. Because some professors put their grades in Canvas, some don't. Some professors put some grades in Canvas, but others are graded on hand or by Scantron. So Canvas, even if you have access to Canvas, it's not going to be completely accurate when it comes time for grades across the board. So that's a tool that we use to help students kind of keep track of their grades. So there should be no surprise going into midterms and finals as to where they stand academically.
Thank you, Dr. Dietz. So I want to remind everyone real quick as we have just a few more minutes. We can accept probably one more question from the public. Otherwise, right now, Ashley, let's flip to the PowerPoint real fast so we can make sure we get those main highlights for our application that is now open. You can apply today at step.ecu.edu. So again, if anyone that is watching right now, I still see we do have some people watching. If you have any questions regarding ECU or STEP, we're here to help. Drop them in the comments. If you're watching this later, you can still drop it in the comments. We can follow up with a private message. So we have just a few more minutes. Ash, I'll let you hit on these last few points. Dr. Dietz is still readily available also for questions as well. Ashley.
Oh, we have a
And we just
question.
got a question right there. Do you get extra study time for midterms and finals?
So during midterms, they're not necessarily set in stone as to when midterms are. Like finals, we actually, like this semester, I think they start December 5th. There's
Yes.
no classes during finals. All you do are take finals. So the library is open like 24 hours. The university does more support, but we typically stay open the same schedule Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So we don't require any extra time for midterms or finals, but students absolutely could. They actually swipe in and swipe out. So that's how we keep track of their hours with a card swiper. So it's like they're clocking in for work, and they clock out. We run a report to see how many hours they were here. So they can always earn more hours than what's required, but we don't ever require anything more than the maximum of 15 their first year. They can always schedule additional tutor times. They can schedule additional mentor times. They can schedule time with staff. So we have a very open door policy. So you absolutely can get extra support, but we don't require it outside of that time frame. So I hope that helps answer that question.
Great question, Henry. Ash, I'll let you hit on those last few points real quick.
All right, so applications are now open. So if you're looking to apply to the STEP program, please visit our website to learn more. And when you visit our website, please check out our application checklist and our application guide. These are step-by-step things that will help you with the actual application process. The checklist gives you a guide to write down your return code. So as you do go through your application, you will be when you hit save and view later, you'll be able to access the return codes, where you can go back in and put those return codes in to get access your application. So that checklist helps you document those return codes, and then the guide takes you through step-by-step processes in terms of what documentation you would need to submit to the STEP program. So really two really great resources that's been updated so they're more accessible to you, and the link is right there on the screen. All right. And then I also want to let you know that we are going to have some open house events. So we're going to have in-person open house this Friday. So if you want to visit the STEP program, you can come in on Friday at 9 a.m. and learn more about STEP. We are also having a open house on November 9th. I'll go into more details about that open house in a minute. And then we also have some virtual options for students. So if you're a parent or student and wants to visit the STEP program and you're out of state, if you go to our website, you're able to book those times to visit the STEP program either virtually or in person. Our virtual dates are November 19th and December 10th. So these are both great options for students to get an idea of what the STEP program is and also ask some great questions about how we can help you with that application process. So I said I was going to talk a little bit about the November 9th open house. So we're going to have an ECU open house on Saturday, November 9th. The STEP program is going to be a part of that open house. So we'll be there at the mall for that student academic fair. And we'll also be hosting a separate open house that starts from 1 to 2 that day as well. So when you register for the ECU Fall Open House, you'll have the ability to choose your own adventure at the end of the day. And we hope you choose STEP and learn more about us. And then if you need to contact us, please visit our website at step.ecu.edu or give us a call. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. And that's my last slide. And thank you so much for all the guys and everyone on that asked questions tonight. We really appreciate those questions. It really helps me out to learn more about what I can explain thoroughly for students and families about the STEP program. So I really appreciate the comments tonight and those questions that everyone asked. And I appreciate Dr. Dietz for being on as well.
Well, it was my pleasure. That half an hour went by so quick.
It did. And everyone asked so many wonderful questions tonight. Like Ashley said, thank you, everyone. And especially thank you for Dr. Dietz for joining us for a special edition of Fireside Chat. It was lovely having you, as always. So, again, I want to remind everyone that the 2026 cohort application is now open. You can apply on our website, step.ecu.edu. Multiple open house opportunities coming up. Come and explore all Pirate Nation has to offer. You can also register and find those dates also on our website, step.ecu.edu. And again, thank you all for joining us tonight. We look forward to seeing you in our next Fireside Chat, which will be in November. So again, thank you all for joining us tonight, and go Pirates.
Go Pirates!